treats this summer. Order any Whataburger meal and step it up with a cool caramel latte shake or malt for $1 more or a delicious brownie.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
This is a special report from ABC News 9/11 plea agreement. I'm Daria Albinger. A major development into the ongoing investigation of the September 11th terror attacks. 3 of the 5 defendants, including the man who is believed to have planned the attacks, have agreed to plead guilty. More from ABC's Michelle Franzen in New York.
3 9/11 defendants facing terrorism charges and held at Guantanamo Bay have reached plea deals with federal prosecutors. To the Defense Department. They include mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who goes by the initials KSM. He's the former head of al-Qaeda's propaganda. The Pentagon says specific terms and conditions of the pretrial agreements are not being made available at this time. The defendants were initially charged and arraigned in June of 2008 and arraigned a second time in May of 2012. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
And the White House says it played no role in the process. This is ABC News. Opposition leaders to Venezuela's president are challenging his re-election results.
Speaking from the presidential palace balcony, Nicolas Maduro says he'll round up senior opposition figures as demonstrations continue over Venezuela's disputed election tallies. Below him, supporters demanding the incarceration of the opposition leader. The country remains tense amid calls for the National Electoral Council to release the voting sheets produced by every precinct after polls closed. It's not obliged to do so, but it has in the past within hours. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
Washington, D.C.'s Attorney General is suing StubHub, accusing the ticket resale company of advertising low prices and then jacking up the cost with fees. Bob Menendez Elementary School in West New York, New Jersey is soon going to have a new name, following the Democratic senator's federal bribery conviction. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
Life hack number 7. Get an iPhone 12 on Straight Talk.
Life hack.
Here's how it works. You walk into Walmart, go to the electronics section, ask for iPhone 12 with 5G and a dual camera system, and select the new Silver Unlimited plan. They'll smile because it's a good plan. You get real unlimited data, all for just $20 a month for the whole first year. Get it at Walmart or StraightTalk.com. Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Taxes and fees apply. Requires activation of iPhone 12 and a new Silver Unlimited plan or higher end auto pay enrollment. $25 a month service credit applied for up to 12 months if eligibility requirements are met. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com.
Everyone on the road is trying to make it to their destination safely. You can help by staying aware of the large trucks and buses around you. They take longer to stop, have large blind spots, and make wide turns that require caution from other drivers. It takes all of us working together to share the road safely. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by FMCSA.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. I'm Todd McKinley in Northeast Tennessee, joined by my co-host, John Grosvenor, in the dark studio there, and probably in a dungeon, it looks like. And, of course, Colonel Chris Wyatt in Central PA. Colonel, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. I didn't have the patience to wait 12 hours in 90-plus degree stifling heat at the farm show, so I'm not at Trump's rally. Donald Trump has just walked on stage in Harrisburg. We had thousands of people already there at 8 a.m. this morning waiting for him. Yeah, 81 million votes, my backside. Yeah, give me a break here. Donald Trump is going to romp to an electoral college victory in November.
I think you're absolutely correct. Did you go up there by chance and take a look at the crowd, or you're just kind of looking at it online?
No, I've been busy with broadcasting and producing all day, and so I didn't go. It's if it was October, it might be a different story, but it is late July and it is brutal out there. People are dedicated. I don't have that kind of time or patience to sit around for 9 or 10 hours when I can watch him right here on a streaming service.
Oh yeah, and the comfort of the good old AC, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm writing up my electric bill.
Yeah. Well, John, how are you there in Nashua? Are you alive? Are you in the studio? Are you Dracula, vampire?
I am alive. I'm like playing vampire here for the lack. I don't know if it's a camera or what it is. I need to check that out, see what's going on with the camera. Looking forward. We got our guest in the back room waiting to come in. Looking forward to our conversation with him whenever you guys are ready.
Oh, well, I think we're ready to go. Colonel, are you ready, or do you have anything you need to bring up real quick?
We got tons of things. We'll save it for the second hour. But Trump just said we didn't need any acts to come on to get a crowd here. Yeah, that's right. It's just us. No, Megan the Stallion doing her twerking, and then after she leaves, everybody left. Nobody wanted to hear Kamala. But let's go ahead and go to our guest because
his rallies are insane.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
welcome Chuck Morse.
Oh, there we go. John, you want to introduce the guest?
Yeah, how you, ladies and gentlemen, we were bringing in Chuck Morse as he's a gubernatorial candidate here in New Hampshire, as you may well know. Chuck, how you doing this evening?
Great to see you guys.
Same here. Thank you for coming on and visiting with us this evening. Though most people should know who Chuck Morse is. Anybody that lives in New Hampshire should have a pretty good idea, but we have newcomers and people probably trying to sort some things out. So would you like to just give us a quick rundown about who you are, what you're about, and maybe some of your past experiences?
Oh, sure. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I grew up in New Hampshire, so it's no accident that I grew up under a conservative lifestyle. I really had no choice, to be honest with you. My mom and dad divorced when I was really young, and I learned how to use a vacuum and mow a lawn pretty quick. But, it was living under that lifestyle and, having a mother that, not only did she work, and she worked for the IRS. I know, don't yell at me about it.
Uh-oh.
But she, she was the kind of mother that, to make sure we had presents under the tree, she'd go pluck turkeys during the holiday season. And she certainly made sure that I was in church every Sunday. And I mean, to the extent that I was actually on the board of directors at a church when I was 16 years old. But I grew up under that conservative lifestyle. I knew what it was like to not have any money, and I had to work a little bit harder. President Biden didn't pay for my college education. I had to raise that money, and it took a little while longer than most kids, but I used it. I went to a state college at the time, and I was going to be successful. There was no doubt that, having grown up under that atmosphere, that I wanted to be better. I did that. I started a business back in 1988. I remember it because I borrowed more money than I knew what to do with. I was in debt up to my eyebrows. I had 3 acres of land, and I built a nursery and garden center and worked pretty damn hard. I made $100 a week in the beginning. I remember drawing that, and I remember signing those paychecks, but I built it into a pretty good size business. I actually built a couple of more along the way, but I got married in the middle of that. Don't ask me why my wife wanted to marry me at $100 a week. That's all I was offering her, but she had the great job, and we got married, and we certainly built a big business together. And in the beginning, I started volunteering because that's what I got taught by my family. I was on the Boys Club board of directors. I served on the local nursing home board of directors. But if you grow up in New Hampshire and you grow up in Salem, New Hampshire, we've had governors come out of here and Senate presidents and speakers. And right away, they talked me into going into politics. And, I've certainly volunteered in politics for a lot of years and giving back. But I served 2 terms in the House, 8 terms in the Senate, and I actually have already served as governor for 2 days in the process. But during all of that, I certainly have accomplished a lot in New Hampshire, and I'd love to talk to you about that tonight.
Awesome. Yeah. So what drove you? What got you into politics then? You just kind of wanted to give back, or?
Yeah, when you grow up in a town like Salem, you certainly grow up with his Sununus here and speakers of the House here and Senate presidents. So when I first got on boards of directors, I was getting the tap on the shoulder that said, you got to become a selectman in town. that happened right away, and I did it, and I won by a landslide because I was so involved in the community. But while I was there, you could see that there were things that needed to be done at the state level, and I was getting calls for me to go to the state level. So I started as a state rep. Took me 25 years, but I delivered I-93, the first 18 miles of roadway in New Hampshire. From permitting to financing to building the thing, I stuck with it. And I'm proud of what I did when I was in the House, but I saw New Hampshire was heading in the wrong direction, and I wanted to get into the New Hampshire Senate. That was just a desire I had, and I did that.
Do you think New Hampshire's still going to the, is it right at this time? You think it's been going in the right direction, or do you think there's a lot of room for improvement?
No, I think our best days are ahead. But remember, when I took a little break in 2006 because my daughter was playing a lot of basketball and a lot of field hockey. So I took a break so I could see every single game. I think I missed one throughout, junior high and high school. But that's just the kind of family we are. And then I went back in 2011. And you got to remember, New Hampshire was not conservative in that time period. I mean, when I got there in 2011, the Senate asked me to be finance chair again. And I was looking at an $800 million deficit in a small state like New Hampshire. And the Democrats had put in 100 new taxes and fees. Probably one of the most difficult budgets that was ever built in our state. But, we cut spending and we drove an economy. But the greatest part of all of that is when we were doing this process, New Hampshire had figured out we had lost our way. I mean, our business taxes in New Hampshire in 2011 were the 47th highest in the nation. I mean, we needed to do something about that, and we did.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping it going. I just lost my train of thought. Chris, do you have a question or anything?
I've always got lots of questions.
Yeah, go ahead. You pass it along.
Senator Morse, it is highly unusual for folks to actually make that move. You stepped away from government for a bit. We've got far too many people that step in there and they think that it's a lifelong position. But you stepped away for a few years, as you said, for family reasons, and then came back. Was that a difficult transition going back to civilian life? I mean, that's not the right term. I'm from the Army, but leaving government and then coming back in. Did you find the challenge different when you came back?
Oh, I think the challenge has changed over the years, but I mean, when I left, I still stayed involved. I certainly worked on think tanks, and I gave back to the community. At the time, I actually helped build a Boys and Girls Club in my local community. I chaired that as part of giving back during that time period. Look, I know what my career is. My career is the Nursery and Guidance Center that I built, but I enjoy volunteering and I enjoy inspiring others to get the job done. And that's what I've done. And I certainly saw when I came back in 2011, New Hampshire had lost its way. And I wanted to get the job, done and getting us back on track.
Well, actually, I suppose we're doing you an injustice here. I carry the title of colonel because I retire with that. That's there for good, unless I get elected to something, although my campaign did not succeed in the primaries this year. But in your case, you did serve as governor. Perhaps we should be addressing you as Governor Morse. I mean, technically, although your opponents may have issue with that, but I think that's probably fair. But let me ask you this question, and this is related to the Senate campaign. You ran for the Senate, and Brigadier General Don Bolduc ran against you. It was a pretty full race. There are a lot of you guys in that race. Were there any challenges in that race? Because he just narrowly defeated you in the primaries went on, and then unfortunately did not win it in the fall. What was do you think was the deciding factor in why you didn't win the primary, and how you'll get across the finish line this year in the general election?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Governor Sununu had asked me to run for the U.S. Senate. It was an honor, and I certainly ran for it against 4 other people that were strong candidates. General Bolduc, he had run the whole state for about 4 years during that time period. He did a great job of campaigning. He proved that, it's not about money. And he was a general. I mean, like you, I thanked him for his service, and I certainly couldn't speak ill of him. During that time period of running, I learned a lot, and it was really an experience that I enjoyed. But the Democrats had made a decision that they were going to spend $6 million in New Hampshire against me, and they certainly had an influence over the race when it came down to it. So I think we fought pretty hard, and we certainly put ourselves in a position where I think the conservatives in New Hampshire recognized that I was a true conservative.
Well, I think it's a fair statement, and you make a very good point there. A few points, actually. I think you learned a lot from that race. The Democrats definitely went after you. We saw the same thing in Pennsylvania when Doug Mastriano ran for governor. The Democrats spent a ton of money against him. Are we still alive?
What do you mean? Yeah, we're live.
Well, everything just froze.
Yeah. No, we're good on our end.
Okay. Well, everything just froze. But can you hear me, Governor Morse?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was still live because everything froze on my screen and the sound stopped for a second. It's back. But they spent $63 million to defeat Doug Mastriano. It was a bit over the top. I think the most ever spent in a Pennsylvania gubernatorial race has been like $4 million in the past. It was really over the top. Dark money coming in from outside. Are there any concerns you have going into the fall, or is that already happening against you with Democrats spending money against you again?
Well, understand, I'm the underdog in this race right now. I mean, I've been out on the campaign trail for a little over a year, talking about what I've accomplished in New Hampshire. And I certainly think what we've done is we've proven, just like Don Bolduc did, that if you go out and you talk to the public and day after day after day, and you put up signs in New Hampshire and you knock on doors in New Hampshire, and you fundraise, I mean, I've certainly fundraised plenty to win this race. It can be done. I can see the momentum's with us. It's changed, and it's definitely, there's enthusiasm behind us winning because people want someone that's backed Donald Trump, that is a true conservative, to lead, and they want us to unite the party that way.
Well, that's an interesting point you make. An awful lot of people stack up and claim to be conservatives. A number of them latched onto the Tea Party movement and claim to be conservatives. They get in office and we see that they're anything but conservatives. I won't mention some of those names at the national level, but they're out there. As a true conservative, it's great. We're glad to see you running in the race and hoping for the best for you in this fall. What issue is resonating the most with your campaign right now when you're talking to voters? In much of the country, it's criminal alien invaders. The illegal immigration is an issue. Other places, it's out of control inflation, or both those issues. Which issue is really reaching home that you're addressing with your voters as you go around in the campaign?
Yeah, it's both those issues. And understand one thing. I endorsed Donald Trump before the primary because I saw solutions for New Hampshire, as being a governor. I did it because I wanted to unite the Republican Party in this state. And when I did that, the first thing that I saw, we could solve a problem that everybody's talking about. Let's close the border. Let's stop the drugs from coming to New Hampshire and anywhere else in the country. Donald Trump would do that and guarantee that that's where we were going to head in New Hampshire. I'm running against Kelly Ayotte. She went in as a U.S. Senator back in 2010. And she certainly went in as a conservative and within 3 years changed her tune. And I remember when Sarah Palin came out and said, "Oh, my God, I can't believe this woman is voting for amnesty when I supported her as a conservative." That's how she was, and that's how she is. And that's what I'm running against right now.
Well, there you go. That's a prime example of someone who made a claim of something they're not, and a good point there. I'm going to hand it back over to Todd. What I'm going to do, John, is I'm going to drop out. I think the problem is on my end, and can you look for me when I come back in a couple minutes in the background? Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Colonel will be back in a minute for our listeners out there. And, of course, for our viewing audience, they can see that he's going to step away. And, of course, Governor Morse, what are some of the big challenges that you're facing right now? I know you've touched on a few of those things. You've been out of politics a little bit. You've kind of got back into it recently. What are some of the biggest challenges outside of the fundraising that Democrats are doing against you?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is to talk about what we've done in New Hampshire and the difference between Morse and Ayotte. I mean, I just told you one of them. Right. I certainly wouldn't support amnesty for 11 million people. And the fact is, during that same time period, Kelly Ayotte, she voted against school choice, for those that can afford it the least. I've passed education freedom accounts as Senate President in New Hampshire. I certainly am working on parental rights bills, to make sure that we get parents involved. That's how I've thought. That's what I believe needs to happen in our state. I want to make sure when I go back and I'm governor that every child has the opportunity to choose the school that works best for them. That's what education freedom accounts are about in New Hampshire, and I want to make sure that that happens.
Absolutely makes sense. The Colonel's back in here for our listeners right now, and I guess he's got some questions lined up. He's going to jump back on here real quick. Go ahead, Colonel. I'll let you get back in there.
Well, sorry, I was hit by CrowdStrike in Microsoft. Did you see Delta lost $500 million during that outage? That's crazy. They're going to sue. Their attorneys are seeking litigation against CrowdStrike and Microsoft. Wouldn't want to be in their shoes. Well, Governor, apologies for that, but everything froze up. I'm surprised we still had the audio chance to ask you questions, and I did miss Todd's questions. So if I repeat it, just tell me that I'm wasting your time. But for the campaign, out there on the trail, like we're talking about those issues. So inflation and immigration, definitely things resonating with folks. And I just caught the tail end of that. It sounded like you're talking about school choice in that last moment message there. That's a big issue that's really important in Pennsylvania. Governor Shapiro, the attorney general who couldn't enforce the law when he was the attorney general, Governor Shapiro is now our governor. And he made a promise to back school vouchers and school choice. And then he reneged on it. But the leftist media, the left-string legacy media are out there reporting that he's an ideal candidate to run for vice president because, he's in favor of conservative things like school choice, but he's not. It's amazing how that happens. So you were talking about school choice. Is that also an issue that's very important to New Hampshire residents?
Oh, it's extremely important to New Hampshire residents. Look, I believe in education. I believe we need to give every child the opportunity. In 2021, the last budget that I worked on, we passed education freedom accounts, and the money follows the child. We did it at a level of poverty that we've risen twice now. The New Hampshire House has sent it to the Senate, and we passed it. We need to make sure every child gets that opportunity in our state, and I think that's important. And it's a big difference between myself and my opponent.
Well, another thing you've touched on here, if people look at your campaign website, that, of course, is issues related to women's rights. I suppose we could address it that way. I believe what you're talking about is Title IX and also the issue with other spaces. You've got to save women's spaces. Is that about Title IX and restrooms and things like that?
Oh, it's about all those subjects. I mean, I actually have a daughter. I mentioned that I left the Senate for a few years to watch her play sports. Let me be clear. A man's a man and a woman is a woman. I would have never found it acceptable that a man was in my daughter's locker room or the bathroom that she was in school. As governor, I'll make sure that doesn't happen in New Hampshire.
Well, that's a big issue. It's going all over the planet. It's not just here. We're seeing it in the Olympics where a transgender male is beating the bejesus out of a female boxer. It's pretty scary stuff. We also see it here in Pennsylvania with Leah Thomas, at Penn State University, setting Olympic or NCAA records and beating out females who have a chance to actually win accolades, and they're not because they're competing against biological males. Is that issue rising in New Hampshire?
Oh, absolutely. And we have Riley Gaines coming here on Saturday to speak in New Hampshire, and it's just the people support the fact. Any father, think about it. Any father supports the fact that he doesn't want a male playing in a sport against his daughter, especially with the efforts these young people are putting in to compete in these sports. I mean, talk about, taking things like safety and stuff out of the way. I mean, it's crazy to think that should be acceptable. And all the other things that are going on with the fact that, you could be in a bathroom or a locker room. I mean, that's just craziness. I mean, no parent would accept that. And we need to make sure that our state doesn't do that.
Well, you make a good point. A couple of years ago in the American Samoa, they allowed males who believed they were females to participate in rugby. And in the first game that occurred, two young girls were severely injured on basically the first play of the game as this male ran over them and severely injured both of them. And that's something that sports have had to take a second look at here. It's this absolute craziness to allow males to compete in a contact sport with females whose bodies are not nearly the same size and have the same and have huge challenges trying to stop a male athlete. It's crazy stuff, Governor.
Oh, it's crazy, and I think the public knows where I stand on it. I've been very clear about it. I have a daughter, and I certainly, would never find it acceptable that happens in our state.
John, I'm having issues again. I'm going to switch browsers and I'm going to come back in. Sorry about that, but I can't see what's going on. I'm surprised I still have the audio. It's shocking me, but look for me to come back in a few minutes. My apologies, Governor.
All right, man.
There we go. Yeah. So it seems that you have the right ideas. You have your finger on the pulse of what the issues are in New Hampshire, and of course you have a level head about yourself. Dare I say you have a common sense. You're a common sense conservative. Of course, you've been out there. You've been in the state house. You've been in the state senate. Like you said, you've served as governor for a couple of days. You understand what the issues are. What are you seeing with some of the voters that are out there that you're talking to? You named some of the issues that people are talking about. But how do you get past people want to vote for Maggie Hassan? Is it just the name recognition, or is it that they really truly believe what she has to say? I'm just trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, well, you just brought us back a few years when you talk about Maggie Hassan, but that's probably a good place to go, quite honestly, and explain what's going on,
right,
in New Hampshire, because Maggie Hassan is our U.S. senator. She's got that spot for 12 years now. But I remember back in 2015 when Maggie Hassan was the governor. I was Senate president, and by the way, I've been the longest serving Senate president in the state's history, 8 years.
Wow.
But back in 2015, we were determined that we were going to start turning back business taxes and cutting them in our state. And we passed a budget, and the Republicans led on this, where we cut the business taxes and we brought Republicans into solving problems with mental health. And we made sure that when we passed that budget, we were united. And when we passed that budget, it was a Governor Hassan at that point in time that vetoed it.
Right. And I meant to say Kelly Ayotte, but I'm thinking of your senator. I did apologize for that. My apologies.
Well, don't worry, because it leads to one of the big reasons that I'm in this race. Because,
right.
In that year, we went out that summer, the speaker and I, and we united Republicans, independents, and like-minded Democrats, and we overrode Governor Hassan's veto on a budget. And when we overrode that budget, it was in September. And if you remember, it was Kelly Ayotte that was running for the U.S. Senate seat against Governor Hassan.
Right.
And when they went to the November general election, Kelly Ayotte couldn't support Donald Trump. She actually had to write in another candidate, and she couldn't unite the Republican Party. And we've lost the U.S. Senate seat in New Hampshire for 12 years. 12 years. I mean, that's really not where we want to be as a state. And it's certainly a big difference in how I believe in government.
Yeah.
I think we have a process, we get behind the candidate, and we unite as a Republican Party. And that's how I've been serving for a lot of years. What happened in New Hampshire with where we are right now and being such a successful state and with the freest state in the nation, we've actually been, labeled that this year. Took us 12 years to get there. I served during all those 12 years, and 8 of it as Senate president, making us the freest state in the nation.
And last year, second freest.
Yeah.
It was funny. We swapped with Florida, right? Florida was first, New Hampshire was second. Then this year in 2023, New Hampshire's first and Florida's second.
Yeah, and we earned it.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
I see that you got Joyce Craig, who's the Manchester mayor running. Of course, she's some of her endorsements, some of her stances is just kind of radical, far radical for New Hampshire, for crying out loud. I don't understand what anybody would see in her. Certainly not me in Tennessee. I can tell you that.
No, well, I mean, they have 2 candidates running on the Democrat side right now, and they're competing for the ultra left.
Of course.
We certainly will not have New Hampshire go in that direction. This election's about the primary. It's about the race between myself and Kelly, and it's certainly about the fact that we need to elect a conservative in New Hampshire that supports Donald Trump and will unite the party.
Yep. Go ahead, John.
Well, actually, I was going to ask this question because I've noticed that New Hampshire will vote Republican or conservative for state, house, senate, and governor, and have a trifecta, but then vote Democrat for federal offices. Do you understand that? Is there a reason behind that, or what? What am I not seeing?
Yeah, I think it's all about leadership right now. I think it's about a Republican that'll go in as governor and unite the party. I mean, the Republican Party is not that Republican Party that it was back, in the early 2000s. Things have changed. People want to be heard. They want a person like me that gets up at 4:00 in the morning, goes to work, is a business person, and takes those values to Concord, gets the job done, and goes home. I mean, that's what the Republican Party is about. Look at what they like about Donald Trump. They like the fact that the man says something and does it. They want business decisions made, and they want the fact that people are going to lead. That's what we need to do. We need to have the Republican Party be led by the governor, and then let's take back the 2 congressional seats and take back the U.S. Senate seats. It's time we get this job done. We cannot afford to let those seats stay in the Democrats' hands.
Absolutely, you're right. We can't. And it's nice to hear somebody that's willing to put calluses on his hands is willing to get the job done at the State House,
Well, thanks. It's those calluses on my hand pay the bills at home, so that's why I do it.
Right?
Absolutely. And for our listeners at home, we got Colonel Chris White. He's back in once more. We're turning it over to him. Let him try to get a few more questions in before he has any more issues.
Well, you put me on the spot there. No, I switched to a Brave browser. Let's see if that's the problem. It's I've never had this happen before. It's really strange. But anyway, so listen, Governor, you mentioned Kelly Ayotte and where she's been. She's been all over the map. I think that those outside New Hampshire don't see her as a true conservative. Is that playing out now in your competition against her? Are people kind of flooding who are actual conservatives to your cause rather than glomming onto her, because she's also got a big name? She barely won her race a couple of times, but she did get first past the post on those elections. Is her campaign competing well? I guess, or how are you competing against her? How's it going?
Oh, Kelly started with name recognition, and the fact was, while you were off, we talked about the fact that she lost that U.S. Senate seat going into 2016. She lost it because she didn't want to unite the Republican Party behind Donald Trump. And that's plain and simple. And I think that's what's playing out now. The last month or so in New Hampshire, people start paying attention as we go into August, and then we go into the primary of September 10th. Now they're paying attention. And they're paying attention to the differences between the two of us. And that comes down to the fact that, she voted for amnesty. She wanted amnesty for 11 million people. That's Kelly Ayotte. I've certainly voted to make sure that this state stayed conservative. I guarantee you, as governor, we are not going to fund any illegals with taxpayer dollars. It's not going to happen. And we're not going to have amnesty, and we're not going to have sanctuary cities in this state. I mean, I voted to put in education freedom accounts. She voted against school choice. That's all playing out right now. That's what people are talking about. When Kelly was a U.S. Senator in the Republican Party, she was the 3rd most liberal Republican. I mean, that's not our state sees that.
I'm glad to hear that, because outside New Hampshire, we see that. I'm hoping that people inside the state see it as well. I mean, we look to New England and we see in the past people like Bill Weld, governor of Massachusetts, not a real conservative. We look at Maine with Olympia Snowe and Susan Collins, not real conservatives. In fact, oftentimes terrified they're going to vote against something that's a conservative issue in the Senate, and that history there. And then we also see her. So that's we get a little concerned outside of New England when we see Republicans, and we're happy to see conservatives. I'm talking about folks in the rest of the country, actual true conservatives, because the names that come out that have the R next to them, oftentimes in your part of the country on the national stage, are not genuine conservatives. They're rhinos, Republicans in name only. And as you mentioned, and I'll say it. I mean, it's not for you to say. It's for Kelly Ayotte is a rhino. I mean, she's not a true conservative, and we're hoping that your campaign goes well and you're able to replace Chris Sununu there in the governor's mansion.
Yeah, we don't quite have a governor's mansion, but I'll do the job every day. It's
Well, it's
we're
an
such
expression.
we're such a conservative state. We don't have a mansion for the governor to go to.
That's
But
good.
the fact is, we've got a lot done. I worked with Governor Sununu on making sure we drove this economy. We may differ on a few things, but the fact is, driving down taxes, that's been a big part of the success of this state. I certainly led the charge on that as Senate President. I think there's more to do there, and we want to make sure that we continue in that direction.
I'd like to shed some light on that. New Hampshire during 2007 stayed strong while we had an economic recession in this country. New Hampshire's always been economically a strong state. When times were bad in other places. And I'm starting to think, listening to you talk there, Chuck, you had a lot to do that. You were behind a lot of that.
Yeah, but coming out of 2008 recession, when we came out of the recession, New Hampshire it took the longest out of the New England states for us to come back. Why? Because they raided the bank account. It was empty. There was nothing in it. They had proposed 100 new taxes and fees and put them in place. This is the Democrats now. So we were in a world of hurt, and $800 million deficits in a state this big, that's an awful lot to have to overcome. So when I came back, it was to basically help put the state back on track. We've accomplished that, and New Hampshire's in the right direction. I mean, we filled the bank account in New Hampshire. We had to take the cap off of what we could save, because the fact is we were doing so well as a state. We saw that we could, put our state in such a great bond rating. That's happened. We're one of the best in the nation. Full bank account, low taxes. We're even taking the interest and dividends tax and eliminating it. It's gone in 2025. That means we compete with states like Florida now. People are not going to leave New Hampshire to go there to beat the tax, because we aren't going to have it anymore. So, we're in a great position.
I love the no sales tax, the no income tax up here. I grew up in Florida, by the way, so I'm a transplant here in New Hampshire. But when I found New Hampshire, I'm just like, wow, I found home. I love New Hampshire, man. I really do. I love Florida, but I love New Hampshire because of the freedoms here, because of the way it is.
Oh, come on, be honest, John. You just like the leaves in the fall. That's why you moved there.
Well, falls are very, very interesting, and it was a change for me. You're talking about polarized, right? Because it's so hot in Florida and so cold up here. But no, I just like the environment here. I like the political environment. I like the freedoms. New Hampshire is one of the states that put a 1981 or 82 had ratified the state constitution for right to keep and bear arms to match the federal.
John, we went even further. In 2017, while I was Senate President, we passed constitutional carry in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
We're one of the safest states in the nation.
I was just telling somebody about that. He says, I got my carry permit. I'm like, what? You don't need that here. No. And he says, well, it reciprocates with North Carolina, because he has residents down there too. And so I'm like, well, that's great, but you don't need it here, man. That's the beautiful thing about New Hampshire. And you're right. We don't have crimes like we do in other places.
Well, we passed Stand Your Ground, too. And you want to see another example that Kelly Ayotte is different than Chuck Morse. She, as AG, lobbied against that bill. She lobbied against the Castle Doctrine. That's something that we passed during that time period. And it's really helped make New Hampshire the safest state in the nation, or one of the safest states in the nation.
So she does all that, then she puts it on her platform. She's here to protect gun rights.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely, you can reinvent yourself. She's got to raise a ton of money to redefine who she is.
Now, are we talking about Kelly Ayotte or Kamala Harris?
Well, both.
It depends on which mask she's wearing today, right? Oh man! Oh, dark money. Do you feel like Kayotte's got a lot of money behind her? That you referenced dark money earlier about Hassan, and do you feel like Kayotte's in the same boat? Like she's got a lot of dark money behind her, or out of state money, or abnormal support?
Oh, Kelly Ayotte certainly has a lot of out-of-state money. I mean, a lot of Massachusetts out-of-state money, a lot of Virginia out-of-state money, a lot of DC out-of-state money. She's served on a lot of corporate boards, and they're certainly investing in her from out of New Hampshire. I mean, that's not what this state was built on. Let's keep New Hampshire, New Hampshire. Let's let New Hampshire people decide what we're going to do in New Hampshire and keep the freedoms the way they are. We don't want those kind of investments in New Hampshire.
So we often have Dan calls in and he talks about BlackRock and stuff, which is one of the boards that you were talking about. She was on BlackRock and, Blackstone, which is part of BlackRock.
Right.
And, so she talks about keeping Massachusetts out of New Hampshire, not turning New Hampshire into Massachusetts, but it's as if she's really on this globalist agenda thing where following the leadership of the left.
Yeah, I think if you look at all the boards that she served on, her nickname up here now is Corporate Kelly. She certainly, you go to Washington, you become beholden to these groups, and then you go serve on all these boards. We haven't seen Kelly during my leadership as Senate President here. Now all of a sudden these boards are supporting her to run as governor in New Hampshire. That's not what our state's all about. Our state is about the working person that basically decides how they're going to work, how they're going to get a paycheck, and what they want to do with their own life. That's what our state's always been about. We're fighting to get back to all those kind of freedoms, and we still have some work to do.
I think John took a phone call there in studio.
Yep.
So we can get back to while he's distracted there, but we've certainly been hit by the technical bugs tonight. So sorry for that, Governor Morse. But John, are you back?
Yeah, we do have a caller. Would like to talk with Chuck Morse, if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
I don't mind. It's up to our guest.
Yeah, right. All right, Dan, your line's open.
Yes, Chuck. How you doing? I'm Dan from Nashua. My problem is with the state is we already know that the Democrats, Joyce Craig and Cindy Warmington, are for the Climate Accord, Agenda 2030, the Green New Deal, the Great Replacement, the Great Reset, DEI, social credit scores, ESGs. But I don't see how Kelly Ayotte, globalist Kelly Ayotte, can be any tough on any of these things either. She will be no different than them because she's on the board of Blackstone, which is under the same umbrella as BlackRock, which is connected to State Street, Vanguard, and as well, and leads you right back to Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, George Soros, and Larry Fink, who are all part of that stuff. And we have a serious problem in New Hampshire with globalism getting entrenched in New Hampshire. So what do you think of that?
Well, I've already proven that I'm going to continue to fight for the people of New Hampshire. I mean, just look at the fact that these people want to build windmills off of our coast. What a ridiculous concept, right? They want to build it off our coast, yet no one was going to listen to the fishermen and go fight for them. I went 2 months ago, started fighting for them, and continue to expose the fact that this is the federal government that's investing in something that they haven't tested, that's going to pollute our fishing industry, and it's not going to accomplish a damn thing for their green energy policy that they so-called are touting. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And the amount of billions that they're investing in it, what companies are getting this money? I mean, why can't Kelly come out and start screaming about it? I haven't heard her yet.
Yeah. But I think, quite frankly, Chuck, because she's tied of it. She's tied to all of it. I mean, I'm hearing that she sold some stocks in Blackstone recently, and she's on the board and making over $300,000 a year. So she's part of the whole damn thing. So she's going to be just like Joyce Craig and Cindy Warrington. That's why I'm going to be voting for you. And we need to push these globalist people out of the state. That's what we need to do. These corrupt, because they're all tied in with these. She's tied in with a lot of corrupt developers, corrupt builders, and they're all interconnected. It's a big problem in the state. So I'm really going to be counting on you to clean this stuff up. I think you can do it, though, right?
Absolutely. The one thing that I've taught people as Senate President, I believe in honor and respect. That's how I governed.
Nice.
I governed as a volunteer legislator. And I certainly every day worked for the people in New Hampshire, not beholden to anyone. And that's not how I'm going to govern. I'm going in to do the job, and I think we can make New Hampshire. I think our greatest days are ahead, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chuck, because I did look into you, and I did notice that Kelly Ayott's also on these corrupt. She was involved in dirty military and media industrial complex companies as well. She's on the board as well on those too. She was on the board of Caterpillar, which she was involved in outsourcing over 2,000 jobs, American jobs, overseas, and over 1,500 of those jobs ended up in China. So I don't think we can trust her. I mean, I don't think she's going to be any different than a Democrat who, if I recollect, in the U.S. Senate when she was there, she voted 75% of the time with the Democrats. She's just barely right of socialist, communist Bernie Sanders.
She voted over 260 times with the Democrats when she served.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Yeah, I got to get Chris back in there. I think he's got a load of questions.
Thank you very much, Chuck.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Go, Chuck.
I do
Awesome.
have to say, I'm scrolling through some of our different feeds that we're on social media, Chuck, and you've won over quite a few voters just on the time you've been on this show that live in New Hampshire. So congratulations there for sure.
Well, that's some good news. But this sort of came up in your last conversation with our caller Dan, and it didn't really go there, but it kind of touched on it. And this is the Chevron doctrine being set aside by the Supreme Court. And the reason I mention that because you're talking about the seashore. Of course, New Hampshire is one of the smallest seashores, just 18 miles, if I'm not mistaken, but rather important nonetheless. But your seafood industry is very important. It generates over $700 million in annual revenue. I think there's over 5,000 people employed in the seafood industry there. And this is a big issue. The impact of the Chevron doctrine being set aside in the administrative state, I guess we could argue it's sort of being dismantled in some ways, although I don't trust that's going to happen. Is that going to be something to have a big impact for New Hampshire going forward? And is it you don't have anything like the Chevron doctrine in New Hampshire that affects business there?
No, I don't believe we do. But listen, where the fishermen get affected, Chris, and I think it's very important to understand this. This was not thought out. This is just some people that enthusiastically want to build a new Green Deal. Now, those windmills are going to be daisy chained together off our seacoast. They're not going to be constructed out there so that they're fastened anywhere. Those blades have to be replaced every 2 years because they wear down. Where does that material go? And that kills our feeding stock that we have out there. And we certainly, as we talk about great things that the Democrats want to do to make us green, we're going to be flying in all our fish to our country because that's what they're going to force to happen. They're hurting the livings of all these people, and yet they're going to kill the seacoast off of New Hampshire and Maine and Massachusetts. I mean, hell, look at what just happened in Massachusetts. You just watched one of these windmills float in, to an island. I mean, that's just a ridiculous concept that they're working on out there. And when you look at the cost of this energy, God bless Donald Trump. He's got to get in as president and build an energy stock for the Northeast because we need it. Because the energy that it would cost, you'd be over 31 cents, for the energy we'd be producing with these wind turbines. It's insane.
They like to say trust the science, and the science has determined that windmills use more energy to produce. You got to dispose of those blades, which is a lot of fiberglass and such, so it's going to contaminate to the soil to bury them. And that's the science that the left just doesn't want to trust. I don't know why.
No, but everything should be debated that way. When I served as Senate President, I passed a piece of legislation that said to the people in the state of New Hampshire, if you're going to build, you decide. You decide whether you're going to use oil or gas or electric. It's your decision. And that's the way it should be, because you decide what's cost effective and what works for you. And common sense will prevail. And that's what we passed. And, thank God we did it, because Kelly can talk about how she's keeping us from being Massachusetts. Just in that one piece of legislation, Massachusetts is requiring electric heat pumps. I stopped it a long time ago. I mean, I've kept New Hampshire the way it is because I cut taxes and I built an economy. I've been doing it for years.
Well, one issue here that's near and dear to Pennsylvanians, and this is a ridiculous one that's costing us a fortune because of our compliance. The Northeast states are importing electricity from Pennsylvania. We're the largest exporter within the continental United States, or in the United States, period, of electricity. And not the largest producer, but the largest exporter. We export more energy than any other state in the country, electricity, and most of it goes to the Northeast. And we're being punished. We have to pay higher rates because of our carbon emissions for electricity being consumed in Massachusetts, in New York, and sorry to say, also New Hampshire. You guys are part of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Is that a topic that comes up in New Hampshire at all? Because RGGI is a dirty acronym in this part of the country.
Yeah, it comes up a little bit, not much. I mean, the fact is, in the Northeast, we're looking for you to send us natural gas. We're looking for you to drill for oil. I mean, we support you in that fact, but there's only one path to getting this all done, and that's Donald Trump. I mean, you show me some other way. I mean, he'll go back to protecting our country, by the way, if we start drilling for oil here, because we'll be able to supply ourselves. But, if he could get natural gas to go through New York and come up to our region, I mean, that would be a home run for any governor in New Hampshire, because it's the only way we'll drive down electric rates. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's the concept of uniting the Republican Party behind Trump, because I think we can do it up here.
Well, I'm 100% with you. I'm all in favor of additional fracking, which we had going like crazy. Pennsylvania is a major energy state. We have been since the first commercial oil well was drilled in 1859 in Titusville. We'd love to send you plenty of natural gas, but Pennsylvanians don't want to be part of RGGI. We want out of that. That's just costing us badly here. It's so bad they've got a state scheme to get solar panels on your home. I signed up for it, and I got free solar panels on my house courtesy of this scheme. But because the electricity rates are just getting too high. I mean, they're artificially high because we're paying for carbon. It's ridiculous. We have to pay carbon offsets for energy we're exporting. We're not even consuming. It's just mean. Anyway, but energy. You're right. I think Governor, that the issue here is getting Trump back in office. But one thing I want to say, and let me ask you about this. You're a conservative. We're all conservatives here, genuine conservatives, not Tuesday morning conservatives when it suits us, but genuine conservatives here. Look, Donald Trump came along. We've been here since before Trump came into the conservative movement, and we'll be here after he's here. But right now, it looks like the only guy that can save this mess at the national level, and not just us, around the world, a lot of people are looking at Donald Trump to save this. And Governor, we came very close. We came windage and the grace of God from losing Donald Trump just a few weeks ago. And right now, I don't know that the guy's safe. I mean, the Secret Service seems to be the Keystone Cops, and I'm very scared about that. What are your thoughts? We think we're going to get across the finish line with Trump in November?
Oh, our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family all the time. I mean, we certainly need to get across the finish line with Donald Trump. I mean, it will make the difference. They have an obligation to protect the president. I mean, they need to live up to that. That's extremely important on our country. I mean, the fact that we got 11 million people that came in, 11 million, over 8 million people that have come in right now, and then all these other illegals that we don't even know about. We don't even know who they are or where they are. I mean, there's a great opportunity that there's going to be a lot of bad things happening in our country. And the Biden administration owns every ounce of that, along with Kamala.
Well, the other piece of this too, and we've kind of touched on a little bit during this hour, is the border and how it's out of control and these criminal alien invaders coming across the border. But one big issue here, of course, is the delivery through the southern border, in particular, of fentanyl that's spread around the country. Donald Trump, when he campaigned in 2016, was someone who talked a lot about opioid abuse and drug addiction and how drugs are coming in the country, not the opioids particularly, but the fentanyl. And of course, he has a personal experience with this. His brother was an alcoholic, and so he knows about addiction. He had to deal with it and the impact of a family. Is this a significant issue in New Hampshire? Here in Pennsylvania, it is a major issue with our Pennsylvanians dying from opioid abuse and from fentanyl.
It's a significant issue. And let's face it, our northern border, our southern border, east and west, they're all open. And the drugs are pouring in. You know, I went over and toured Texas with a bunch of sheriffs, and I saw what was going on down there. And I said, this is coming in New Hampshire. The cartels are controlling everything. It's not just drugs that are coming in. If the people are coming in and they're obligated to these cartels. And I said, it was going to come to New Hampshire. It's coming. It's here. We are seeing all the drugs here. We got to shut the door on this if we're going to save our young people.
Well, you make a good point there. You know, for the past 20 years, of course, going back 20 years, I was in the intelligence community serving in active duty, but inside the intelligence community and outside the intelligence community since I retired, I've been warning people that the problem isn't simply the southern border, and you just alluded to it. Our northern border is even less secure. I mean, and people can walk across it. You used to be able to just go across with a driver's license, and it was not a serious check, but we've got lots of people coming across the northern border, which kind of gets ignored. There's a lot of remote space, particularly New England, forest and space you come across and work your way into the country. And no questions asked. The northern border is something that needs attention too, does it not?
Absolutely. You know, I actually went up to Pittsburgh. I went up to learn about communications up there. After a 3-hour meeting, I got invited by a woman to go up to her farm. You know, a 25-minute drive. I went up there. She stopped her car on a dirt road, and she got out and she got a stick. And she went and put it on the side of the road, and she came over to my car and she said, I just want to show you what happens in New Hampshire, because people weren't believing it. She said they put the stick on the side of the road by all the drainage ditches, but they put the stick on the side of the road so they can tell the people that are coming up to get the drugs where the bags of drugs are. So it's happening, you know, in New Hampshire. And then she drove up to her farm and she showed me where they turn around, and she showed me where they walk right into her property from Canada. Because it's so loose to get into Canada, they can walk right into New Hampshire. And if you look across the borders of New York and Vermont, you know, you can see the fact it's happening on the north too.
Yeah, there's snowmobile trails and stuff like that, right? A lot of backwoods trails and stuff where people can just pass right on through.
Yeah, but this farm's right out in the open. Right out in the open. And they're just walking into our country.
It's brazen. It's absolutely brazen. It's incredible. You know, they talk about 10 million. The number's probably closer to 25 or 30 million people come across that southern border. And we don't even have a handle on the number coming north. But Chuck Morse running for governor in the Granite State of New Hampshire, the 603. That's the area code. It's actually one of the first area codes ever issued back in 1947. For those who don't know, that little trivia there. But Senator Governor Morse, can you give us a rundown? We've got a couple minutes left. Why people should go and pull that lever to vote for you so you can be the next governor of the Granite State.
Yeah, I think the best way to look at it, to be honest with you, is to look at the things I succeeded with when I was Senate President. I told you already, I passed constitutional carry while I was Senate President. Made us the safest state, one of the safest states in the nation. I passed education, choice in New Hampshire, the education freedom accounts. We passed that. We're giving people the opportunity to choose the school that best fits their situation. I want to go back and I want to make sure we offer that to every child. We talk about the fact that as a president, I cut business taxes because I saw that it was going to drive the economic engine for our state. And we not only did that, we eliminated the interest and dividends tax. That thing is going to be gone in 2025. I mean, it's important what we did. And we certainly have stayed opposed to things like amnesty in our state. And I even worked, I can tell you this, because I know you guys believe in this. I worked to ban late-term abortion in New Hampshire. 80% of the people think it's the right thing to do. We got it done.
There we go, folks. We'll be right back after the top of the hour. We've been talking with Chuck Morse, the next governor of New Hampshire, right here on WSMN 1590 and 95.3 FM. Stick around. We'll be right back after the break.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News. I'm Daria Albinger. The Pentagon's confirmed 3 September 11th defendants reached plea agreements with prosecutors, including mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. It says the White House played no role in the process. Former President Trump wants to know when Vice President Kamala Harris became black.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman.
I respect either one.
The president, in a question and answer session at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention, which was co-moderated by ABC's Rachel Scott. The State Department is urging Americans not to travel to Lebanon due to recent escalations in the Middle East. At least one death confirmed in the wildfires threatening heavily populated areas, the Colorado foothills. This is ABC News. Vermont can't seem to escape the wrath of Mother Nature. The state spent the month cleaning up from early July floods, only for a new round of storms to cause even more damage, including washed away roads and foundations, homes knocked off their foundations. Parts of the state could see even more flash flooding. Hurricane Beryl left behind a lot of damage and apparently something called hammerhead worms.
It's longer than an earthworm, usually dark-colored with stripes, and
it has a uniquely shaped head.
A head that looks like a hammerhead shark's head. With all the recent rain, Ashley Morgan-Olvera says
They've gotten flushed out of their burrows.
The research director at the Texas Invasive Species Institute says the worms are on the hunt.
It eats earthworms, which are necessary for our forests, our crops, our gardens.
It secretes a slime that will irritate your skin if you pick it up and can kill a pet that eats it. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
And I'm Daria Albinger, ABC News.
Summer congestion got you down. Whether it's allergies or a summer cold, being congested can ruin your whole day. You feel tired and run down, like you're missing out on summer fun. At Navage, we're here to make breathing easy, easier. Navage uses patented gentle suction technology to help clear out allergens, dust, and mucus without drugs. In just 30 seconds, you'll be on your way to a better day. Get Navage at Walmart, Walgreens, Sam's Club, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, or online at Navage.com. Navage. Breathe better, fast.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. And one thing I've learned is that you buy a house, but you make it a home. Because with every fix, update, and renovation, it becomes a little more your own. So you need all your jobs done well. For nearly 30 years, Angie has helped millions of homeowners hire skilled pros for the projects that matter. From plumbing to electrical, roof repair to deck upgrades. So leave it to the pros who will get your jobs done well. Hire high-quality certified pros at Angie.com.
Celebrate freedom with major savings at the Independence Day celebration happening at Campers Inn RV. Everyone's invited to explore our wide selection of RVs starting at just $5 a day. Looking for more space? Upgrade to a 25-foot RV for only $2 more per day. With no hidden fees and transparent sales process, Honest Abe would be proud. 1,500 customers rated this experience 5 stars. From sea to shining sea, an RV is your ticket to explore this nation. Visit Campers Inn RV today. Discounts and finance offers subject to availability. Terms and conditions apply. With approved credit, see dealer for details.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
The views.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. Fairly good interview there at the first hour with Chuck Morse, former acting governor of New Hampshire, former state Senate president and state representative, amongst other things, business leader, local, civic-minded individual. What do you guys think, is the way forward there for him? Do you think he's going to has a shot? I listen to what he has to say. I really like what he had to say. If I had a opportunity to vote for him, given the option, the other option, without a doubt, he would be somebody I'd vote for.
Well, I'd definitely vote for him. I mean, no reservations there.
Right.
But look, I'm not in New Hampshire, but I have a reservation when it comes to New Hampshire voters. I don't think they always make the right decision, and we saw that with Don Bolduc. It was clearly head and shoulders above the better candidate, and he didn't get in there. Now we have to listen to the same parrot back in D.C. So I get a little nervous about which direction New Hampshire voters are going to go. I mean, it's a state that has a strong conservative history, but at times some of the voters seem to betray that. So I'm not sure. I think he has a great chance, and I hope he wins. But it is New Hampshire, so I think all bets are off. John, you live there.
Yes, I do. Like I said earlier, New Hampshire's been voting. They voted a trifecta in the House, Senate, and governor here last election, and they seem to stick with conservatives in the state level, but go to Democrats in the federal level. I don't understand, and what I think that is more people vote on a federal level. So I think that's what's happening. You're seeing more of your liberal-minded people not voting so much in the state level, but they're voting heavily in the federal level, and that's why they keep tipping the scales to the left.
Well, that's probably a fair point. Donald Trump just said emphatically, we are not going to allow them to steal the 2024 election. Oh, man, the House is coming down at the farm show in Harrisburg. I wish I was there. It's incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And he's not been shy of calling it out this time around. And of course, some of the commentators are like, "Oh, he needs to stay away from that." I'm like, no, I think he needs to actually talk about it. They're not going to steal it. And he's not talking about 2020 anymore. He's moved on to 2024. I mean, which is the right thing to do. Move forward, talk about the future.
Well, I hope he's right. I hope it doesn't happen, but I have reservations. Remember, the Democrats, the Democratic National Committee, and activists on the political left filed over 350 lawsuits in advance of the 2020 election from 2017 when Trump came in office. They could never going to allow this to happen again. We're going to stop him at all costs. And they did. They altered our election laws. They watered down. They cheapened the value of the most important civic responsibility voting. In some places, they even gave voting rights to aliens. That's ridiculous. You shouldn't be able to vote unless you're a citizen. And that's just, a lawful citizen, not a felon.
Right.
That sort of thing there. But that's the bottom line here. But a lot's happened over the past few days. I mean, every time we come on, it's something substantive. I mean, we had the debate, if you want to call it that. Then we had the assassination attempt. Then we have Joe Biden bowing out of the race. And now we've got white dorks for Harris.
right. But then calling JD Vance, he's a weirdo.
Yeah. These, it's so funny watching these clowns. It's so obvious. They pick a word, they pick a phrase, they pick a talking point. It's like they have it's better than smoke signals. Yeah, Native Americans have nothing on the Democrats and the political left. The moment they come up with some nonsense, it's like they're out there, they must be texting it to everybody. Okay, this is the line now. Say JD Vance is weird. And you just watch it. MSNBC, you see Misha Bershenko there and
he's
and her
just
boyfriend.
weird.
They're just weird. What's weird about this guy? And they just say it over and over again. It's like a lie. You tell it often enough, it becomes the truth. And that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually claim that Kamala Harris is not. The borders are. And I don't know if you saw the Republican National Committee made I was going to send it to John. I should have done it so I could play it on air, but it's comical. The Republicans are trying to call her the borders are. She was never the borders are. Then the same network. Borders are Kamala Harris, who was appointed today.
Right. Right. Yeah. And you had Joe Biden with Kamala sitting off to his right, talking about how she's going to be in charge of everything at the border, security, all this. She's going to liaison with all the appropriate agencies. She's going to be the point person. And she went to one place in El Paso one time, well away from the border, like 20 miles away from the border. And then I think that was the only time she came that close to the border, as far as going down as quote unquote borders are.
Sorry, I got distracted. You're absolutely right about that. Dave McCormick, who's struggling in the polls, I believe. I know him personally now. Dave McCormick, the hedge fund guy who's a Pennsylvanian, is on the stage with Donald Trump. Trump's been talking for an hour. He just brought McCormick up, and he said, you don't often have a chance to get a guy like this elected. And he said he's a friend of mine. So McCormick's up there right now stumping for Trump, and Trump is stumping for McCormick. Perhaps that'll be enough to get him across the finish line. That'll be
interesting, and let's see if that happens, and let's hope. But what do you think the Democrat strategy is going to be? Maybe post Democrat convention, moving into those last crucial weeks and the last month or so before November election.
It's pretty clear what it's going to be. It's going to be attack Trump, lie about Trump, but the real thing is going to be avoid any policy issues, avoid everything. They're already, someone's talking to her. I mean, we no longer get the Kamala Harris we've seen since she was, in California.
Cackling,
that's stopped, full stop. You don't see that at all. And they're also going to try this nonsense of hoodwinking voters by getting artists and musicians out there. And we see, look, this white dorks for Harris. What a comical campaign. What a collection of losers from Hollywood. Ridiculous. White dorks, folks, it's white dudes, but I'm calling them white dorks. White dorks for Harris. They're going to try everything under the sun. But the biggest thing they're going to try, and they're getting away with it now, is the collusion in the media and in big tech. Meta, Facebook, Alphabet, already pulling all kinds of crap. Now, Elon Musk and others have made this claim that when they do searches for Trump or Trump assassination, they're getting every result comes back for Harris. I've tried that repeatedly, different browsers, and it doesn't happen to me. But other people are making the claim. But I don't put it past it. But the media and tech are already in the tank. This is so cooked, so obvious. They're hiding things. They're lying about things. They're denying things that we all know. That was her job. Her one job, the only job she had as vice president was the border czar. How can you deny that?
Right. Yeah, you had one job. You didn't do it, but now you're the best person to be president. Come on.
Exactly.
Come on. There you go.
Well, the thing about it is with the left guys is they've got see, everybody wants to talk about Project 2025 and what an evil beast that is and all this nonsense, the fluey with. Well, the Brookings Institute also has the leftist agenda. See, people don't talk about that, and they have for decades. You know what I'm saying? You can go back and look at the archives of their agendas. So when Harris is running as president, she's running for an agenda. She's not running as see, Donald Trump built an agenda. Donald Trump built a platform. He's basically reforming and recreating the conservative party.
Right.
And Harris is out there basically running on somebody else's agenda, something somebody else designed that happens to be part of the United Nations, that happens to be part of World Economic Forum and everything else to go with it.
I think the term you're searching for, John, it's not coming to you, is sock puppet.
That's exactly what it is.
She's an empty suit. There's nothing to her. At least Hillary Clinton had ideas. They're lunatic ideas. But this woman, everything she spouts, she doesn't know it. She doesn't believe in it. No. And she is the biggest liar we've seen, even a bigger liar than Joe Biden. I was smoking weed in college to listen to Snoop Dogg. Hey, Snoop Dogg was 7 years old there, sweetheart. He wasn't recording rap songs back then. Liar, liar, pants on fire, to say the very least. Now, she is a sock puppet for the new world, for the leftist agenda, for the lunatics. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah. But she's getting free press, she's getting free media, no equal time, utter nonsense, and she's getting collusion by the tech world. And that has an effect. That keeps her in the game. Right now, she's got a honeymoon because they're giving her a free pass. Let's hope that the truth wins out here. This woman is just, oh my gosh. She's not qualified to be a gas station attendant in New Jersey.
No. And John, you said we were getting calls, is that right?
Yeah, we do have a caller who wants to talk a little bit about some things, his observations about the Olympics, other than I assume the Antichrist presentation they delivered at the opening ceremonies.
Sure, bring a caller
in. Your line is open, caller.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Oh,
hey,
Billy.
Billy Payne.
All right. All right, Billy, what's up?
Yes. So if that opening ceremony wasn't bad enough. I don't know. It's just like they always find a way to top what was bad and make it worse. Now they have 2 male boxers competing in the females division. This is just absolutely wrong. And I think, and I'm going to repeat what I said yesterday, that if there's any athlete in there with a brain in their head that loves the Almighty above, that they should just forget about their dreams of winning a gold medal and withdraw from the games. And especially, I mean, the apology they gave, the Olympic Committee gave, and then they turn around and do this and allow men to compete against women, especially in a sport like boxing. It's just absolutely disgusting.
Right. Yeah. And it's something where actually, you know, a woman could get killed or, you know, hurt for the rest of their life, you know, competing against somebody like that. It's not swimming where it's non-contact. I get it. What men shouldn't be competing against women anyway, but it's not the same thing as a non-contact sport. I mean, this is truly dangerous. Like you just said, I mean, somebody could get their brains bashed in fairly easy here.
I mean, I already saw highlights of the one match, and that woman was just getting battered. And I'll tell you what, we get angry when we see some drunk, you know, yelling, screaming at his wife while she's in the fetal position, and he's taking swings at her. And to me, this is no different when I really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, absolutely. Because I mean, the person, and unless you have a referee that steps in, you know, in short order, you know, can get dozens of swings on somebody, and which could you know, create traumatic brain injury for somebody. You know, long-lasting issues and effects. So I mean, this is dangerous. And why the heck would the Olympics would allow something like this? I mean, you know, obviously, you know, we have the woke international scene, obviously, but I mean, for something like this, a combat sport, I mean, this is absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, this is just totally insane. You're right. You know, I mean, I've been involved in MMA and boxing for a long time. In fact, from right here in my neck of the woods, there's a former cruiserweight champion. He must have boxed for about a good 20 years of his life, and whereas he has reaped the rewards, he's also as he's getting older, he's very punchy, and he has constant migraines and all that. So there is a price to pay. Mm-hmm. And I think most understand that, but I can't imagine though. You're a woman that has to go up against a man, and
right. And I'm sure you've boxed, you know, like kind of amateur boxing where you wear the headgear, mouthpiece, and all that, and the bigger boxing gloves. But even getting hit by a guy about my size or even bigger, you know, you feel that. I mean, even with all the padding on, you feel that. You know, I can imagine somebody much smaller than a guy, you know, taking those hits. I mean, that's going to be even worse for somebody for sure.
Yeah, but listen,
well,
you know,
Todd, speaking from experience, who I have boxed at an amateur level too. I mean, yeah, the headgear only prevents like cuts and things like that, but still, right. You're getting hit in the head, and the brain is still inside the skull, getting bounced off the walls of the skull.
All right, absolutely. Go ahead, Colonel. I know you jumped in there. Sorry.
Yep. Anyway, that's pretty much all I had to say. You guys enjoy the rest of your show.
All right. Thank you, Billy.
Well, you know, the Olympics just courts controversy. It really does. I mean, it's not just the boxing with the male athletes beating up women. It's not just the insult to Christians, which they try to pretend. But of course, we know because the people participated in it tweeted before the event how they were going to mock the Last Supper. And they thought that, you know, no one's going to see that. Then after the event, they changed their thing and said, oh, this was for some artist, you know, it was about Dionysus. It wasn't about Dionysus. And what does this have to do with it? And people are like, what do you know? The Olympic Games are all about Greek gods. Okay, look, yeah, 3,000 years ago, 2,000, yeah, sure. But they were.
This is the modern games.
This is the modern games brought back over a century ago, and they have nothing to do with Greek gods. Stop being little clowns here. Right. And it wasn't Dionysus. That's not anyway. No. But I mean, but it's not just the boxing. It's not just the insults to Christians. It's also the sabotage, the effort to disrupt the games. The train system was derailed, the high-speed train system, TGV, which I traveled on when I was there for the Rugby World Cup. It's also the power going out, the sabotage, the power system. And on top of that, the triathletes are drinking poo water in the Seine River. I mean, they spent $1.5 billion to clean that disgusting, filthy toilet bowl, and they're actually swimming in it. The E. coli, and this is where it gets even better. They're blaming it on, want to guess what it's being blamed on?
Climate change.
Climate change. Climate change is making poo water. It's not poo water. It's your poor sanitation. That's what's causing it. Well, yeah, but it's because of all the rain we're getting. Hey, it's Europe. It rains there. This isn't the Sahara, you clowns. And people actually, it's like the maps we see all the time. You know, you see the maps now, the weather maps. When it's 70, they put like an orange on there, like that's a high temperature. And then 80 is like extreme red. And then you get over here and it's like god awful red when you get to 90. Excuse me. We didn't see those red colors till we got to the 90s when I grew up and throughout my adult life. And suddenly 70, which used to be like blue and light green, is in the red range. This is ridiculous. How stupid do they think we are? Apparently very stupid.
Yeah, 70s feels good. It's a light jacket if there's a breeze, you know. 80s, you got the jacket off, got a shirt off, whatever. If you're out playing in the yard as a younger kid, you know, having fun. 90s, yeah, you come in and take a little water break every now and then, but you're still back out there having fun with it.
Yeah, and it's the 90s isn't bad depending on the humidity. I mean, if you've got bad humidity, that's a problem. I mean, Arizona 90s like just another day.
It's dry.
It's triple digits to start to bother you, but it's a dry heat. Yeah, it'll still kill you, but it's a dry heat.
No, all I'm saying is that the humidity. You don't feel that wet, you know, drowning feeling. You know, you sweat a little bit, but it evaporates fairly quickly whenever it's dry. Yeah.
It's all about acclimation, man. I grew up in Florida, and I remember in the summertime wearing a leather jacket and blue jeans and boots, you know.
Okay,
and people are like, I hate this guy. I hate him. He's wearing a leather jacket. You can acclimate to the weather, but I can't go back to Florida. Now I've been in New England for far too long. I go down there and I die of sweat. By the way, Todd, I noticed you're wearing your presidential service.
I haven't worn this in a while, and whenever I throw a shirt on for the show, it's like some of the veteran service shirts I can't wear, obviously, for the partisan politics and stuff. So I'm limited on what all I can wear. So I just grabbed one of these I haven't worn in a while.
Yeah, nice.
Well, we're talking about the Olympics. Let's talk about something here that probably get me a little controversy, but it's a statement of fact. Look, men and women are built differently physiologically. Yeah. We serve different functions in the propagation of the species. That's the bottom line. And our endocrines are different. Our hormones are different. Our physical makeup is different. And there's reasons for it. People want to deny that. They want to pretend everybody's the same, that men can have babies and all this other nonsense. It's simply not true. But here's the thing. I love rugby. I think you guys know that I'm a huge rugby supporter. I travel the world wasting thousands of dollars to cover the sport so I can grow it all on my own. But the point is that it's a great sport. Now, there's rugby sevens, which is just 7 players on the field, whereas normal rugby has 15, so over twice as many players. So the amount of space it opens up is difficult to find space to break away. Whereas in sevens, it's like a track meet. It's like they're just running 100 meters all the time because there's so much space, and it just takes a momentary lapse in defense, and there's no one that can catch up. The player just took off. Well, here's the thing. When you play rugby sevens and you pass the ball underhand to another player, you have to throw it much further than you do in rugby 15s. And we saw that on display here in the Olympics. We saw the men able to make the passes at 15 or 20 meters, 30, 40 feet, whereas the women repeatedly throughout the weekend in their tournament, the game was kind of harmed in a way, in my view, because women were unable to make that pass. They would throw it and it would bounce up and it'd go the wrong way. They'd have what we call a knock on and turn the ball over, and it cost teams games. It cost teams a medal potentially. So, I mean, to deny that there's differences in men and women is just silly. I can imagine if men were allowed to play in women's 7, good Lord. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Iona Maher, who is a top U.S. sevens player, and how she's like a running back. She just runs over people. We'll put a couple males on the pitch where my build, not even big, slender in frame. She's not knocking me over. She's going to get knocked over. There are differences. Let's just be honest about that. That doesn't diminish. It doesn't diminish the contribution or the accomplishments of women. Sure. Katie Ledecky just cleaned the clock of everybody and won the 1500 meters. Nobody came close. And then Tatiana Smith was way behind in the women's, and she came back and won that race. And people thought she wasn't going to medal. She got the gold medal for South Africa. Women accomplish many things in athletics, but putting men against women is a brain dead concept. And it's a recipe for injury. It's a recipe for embarrassment. It's a recipe for discouragement for women. Look at, we talked in the last hour with the candidate for Governor Morse there, Chuck Morse. And I want to keep saying Chuck Norris, but Chuck Norris. Yeah. But we talked, I mentioned Leah Thomas at Penn State. And he mentioned Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines is a rock star. This is a woman who's standing up for Title IX, a woman standing up for women's rights. And it's got to be the case. People need to stop playing this insanity and playing this game for a small portion of the population. The ones that are pulling it off are ones that are actually cheating. They're not legitimate transgenders. Most of these people, they're just frauds, and they're getting away with it. Legitimate transgenders aren't going to try to pull this nonsense. Anyway, it's people need to stand up for women's sports. People need to stand up for women.
The thing about it is, too, they talk about DEI, we got to be diverse and we got to give advantages to people so they can participate. What about the person you're victimizing? What about the woman who's taking the beating? Does she not deserve to have fair advantage? Does she not deserve to compete fairly?
John, it's no different than the racist position of affirmative action.
Exactly.
So you're going to make things right by discriminating against other people. That doesn't make things right. The way you make things right is you invest in places where people are at a disadvantage, whether it's money or resources or time. And then you make sure that everybody, what a government's supposed to, has a level playing field. You level a playing field. And if that requires money, then it requires money. But this nonsense of, NASA really irritated me years ago. NASA's, STEM program. NASA's STEM program targets only minorities. What about white folks? Shouldn't they go into science too? For years we heard this garbage from NASA and from universities that women aren't in STEM fields. Women aren't in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We need to focus on women. Well, over 60% of master's and PhDs awarded in those fields today go to women. And that has been the case for 20 years. Yet we still hear the garbage that we got to invest in women, Well, they've done so at the expense of men. Men are disappearing from these fields. And then they come back with, oh, look, women are so much better. They're not better. That's where all your resources and effort have gone. And the argument was it all went to men in the past. And that's probably a fair statement. But this is nonsense. NASA, they're so proud of their STEM program, but they don't go to Appalachia to recruit people for STEM. They do go to East LA. They do go to Harlem. They do go to Atlanta. They do go to Chicago, not the South Side. They don't want to get shot, but they do go to those places. But they don't go to Appalachia. They don't go to rural Mississippi where white folks are at. They keep them out of the programs. It's intentional. It's wrong. That is not how you do things. The purpose of government, the reason we, the people, formed a polity is to meet our common needs like defense and a level playing field, a system of judicial prudence in courts so that we can seek a right of redress when someone wrongs us, or society can punish those who break the rules, murder, rape, theft, things like that. That's the purpose of government, not to provide housing for you, not to take care of you when you're homeless, not to give you free meals. That is not the role of government. It is not.
No, you're right. Correct. And the thing about it is what you're getting at is we're supposed to be a country based on equality. But when you give special rights and privileges to certain groups, you tip the scales of balance.
Well, that's exactly what happened with affirmative action. It wasn't affirmative. It was racist. So, and look, by the way, I've been on record saying this. As a veteran, I get preferential hiring practices by the federal government. I get extra points. I don't think that's fair. Now, a lot of veterans are going to disagree with me. I don't think it's fair. I mean, I'm not special because I'm a veteran. I served in combat and I'm a disabled veteran. It doesn't make me special. It doesn't make me special. It just means I put more into the tank for the country than many others did. But I shouldn't get an advantage. I'm no different than anybody else. We should be judged on the merit of our ability to do the job. That's what matters.
Yeah.
I shouldn't get the job that I'm not good enough to do because of those reasons. It should go to the best candidate. And when you allow people to go to the University of Michigan Law School on the basis of their skin color being dark pigmentation, and that's the deciding factor, not their academic record or their success at undergraduate level, then you get people who fail or are not the best graduates, and you deny the best people. What do? What are they supposed to do? And we see this every day in South Africa. It's a tragedy of epic proportions. There is an upside to that for people who have drive. In South Africa, most entrepreneurs are white South Africans because they're aced out of university positions. They're aced out of government jobs where they're qualified because they're white, so they go into private business. But it's a hard road to hoe. It's unfair. And affirmative action was one of the most racist policies in this country. I don't want to hear this nonsense. Well, I've been discriminated against. Well, show me what you've been discriminated against. All right, if your land was taken, we're going to get restitution. But don't tell me that your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was discriminated against and you deserve something for it, like reparations. Hit the road, Jack. We all suffered. We all came here. Being an American is not about being African-American or European-American. It's about being American. That's what it's about. It's an ideal. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect human, do ordain and establish this Constitution. When in the course of human events, Learn our history, learn our system of governance, and stop lying about it. It's just, really drives me nuts. But affirmative action was one of the most racist policies ever. And it was, everybody's, we have to have affirmative action. We have to have, no, we don't have to have affirmative action. What you have to do is ensure a level playing field. You don't ensure a level playing field by giving people an unfair advantage. You ensure a level playing field in the same way that I went to college. I was dirt poor, no electricity, no plumbing. How did I go to college? I didn't have any money. We had almost no income. Because of that, not because of my skin color, the government leveled the playing field since I didn't come from a wealthy family, and they provided grants and a student loan, which I was eligible for. And with that, I went to university. That's leveling the playing field, not giving me advantage because I'm white or because I'm black. That's nonsense. That is the stupidest concept in human history. Yet people glom onto it. If you don't agree to it, you're a bigot or racist. No, we're not. We're reasonable people who believe that everyone is created equally, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Chief among them, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. If you don't like that, go to Russia, go to North Korea, go to communist China. Or, hey, don't go that far. Go to Venezuela. Maduro won. You'll enjoy it there.
Right. Yeah, I can tell you, Dr. Thomas Sowell would absolutely agree with you on everything you said there, every point. He'd probably say a little different. He former Marine, a guy from North Carolina, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, moved to New York City as a young kid, and then, of course, made his way through university, like you said. I think Columbia and several other, highly respected institutions. Probably one of the smartest men in our country, I think. He would absolutely agree with you.
Thomas Sowell, what a national treasure.
Yes.
And because he's black and he's conservative, he gets ignored. If he was a leftist, like that clown that works for New York Times, it's a so-called economist, then they would talk about him every day. He would be on every talk show. They would want him all the time, everywhere. The guy's absolutely brilliant. You only see him occasionally. He's up there now. I think he's 88 or something like that.
Yeah.
What a national treasure. He, along with Dr. Victor Davis Hanson, are truly brilliant academics who really are often overlooked. Victor Davis Hanson gets a lot of attention these days. I've interviewed him 3 times. Fantastic American historian, brilliant guy. But, Thomas, by the way, the Trumpster is still going, 1 hour and 31 minutes.
I was going to ask that. How long has he been going? Okay,
it's still going. I mean, and he's not letting up. he's full of energy, vim and vigor.
He's funny because he has a teleprompter going off in front of him, and he'll just go off script and start talking.
That's
and he's just like going off.
Well, that's why it lasts so long. Nobody wrote a 2-hour speech. Trust me, that's a novel.
And then he'll go back on the script, and you'll see it start pumping up words again.
Right.
And I don't think he needs the script.
No, he doesn't. I can tell you, having done a number of events for President Trump and watching the teleprompter operator, you'll have one of the staffers will come over and be like, okay, he's off script. He's scroll up, stop here. This is a good point for him to pick up, because he's probably going to hit all these and whenever he's just going off script, he'll probably hit all the points that you just scrolled past, and he'll just pick back up on script. Then he jumps off script, and the teleprompter operator will scroll it up, maybe a few paragraphs. He'll pick back up again.
He does it on purpose too, because he wants his audience to know he doesn't need that script. Obama failed miserably without it. Remember when it stopped working and he was lost for words? Biden couldn't form a sentence on his own without the script.
Obama's a cheap suit. I still can't. He's so articulate. He's such a brilliant speaker. He's not a brilliant speaker. He's reading his script. He reads the script well. By the way, Trump just wrapping up. The crowd loving it. He's going, by the way, so let's put this in perspective real quick, okay? Despite the tens of millions of dollars of free advertising that the legacy media are giving, and Fox News are giving to Kamala Harris at the moment, despite Megan Thee Stallion showing up for her, despite the white dorks doing their things from Hollywood, despite all of that, Trump is still ahead in the polls. They're talking about how she's closed the gap and all that. That's nonsense. The popular vote might be 49 to 47 or something like that. But that is misleading, because we all know that 2 or 3% of those who actually vote in the total vote for Trump and lie in polls and say they're not going to vote for Trump. We've seen it 2016. We've seen it 2020. Those people will come out. So it's probably there. It's already a margin there. Puts them over 50%. And on top of that, Trump is leading in all the battleground states except one, all of them. And that's what matters, because the popular vote doesn't matter. It's the Electoral College. Thank God. That's what matters. And I'm not saying that because I'm conservative. I'm saying that because I believe in the Constitution that protects the states' rights, having the Electoral College. So Trump is ahead in all those. This is despite all this desperate effort to dump Biden and to go with Harris, who is a thoroughly horrible candidate. I mean, they couldn't have picked a worse candidate if they picked, I don't know, who was that guy from David Duke? Yeah, they could have picked David Duke.
Right, yeah.
The only worst candidate they could have come up with. It's crazy. I mean, you
still
if
got
you're
Newsom. I mean, they could have picked Newsom, and that could have been worse.
yeah, but Newsom is as bad a candidate as he
he's
is.
dangerous because he might actually get something done that we don't want done.
He's like Juicy Trudeau. People will look the other way and they'll vote
Yeah.
for him, and then they'll moan about it after the fact. But Harris is just, I mean, if you were going to pick the worst candidates possible, you'd go, well, there's Joe Biden, and the only one worse than that's Kamala Harris. That's who they picked. And by the way, they defrauded 14.5 million Democratic voters. And this is the party that's trying to save money. By the way, what narrative has disappeared since they did that? What narrative? The Democrats for the past year, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. He's a fascist totalitarian. He is going to throw out the Constitution. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Guess what? Not one sentence uttered since they did that, since they had a palace coup and unseated a sitting president. No one's talking about this on any of the talk shows. This was a palace coup. They forced Joe Biden out. These were the elites. This is no different than the military coming in Niger and saying, hey, you're out, President Mohamed Bazoum. You are no longer the president. You're under house arrest. We run this country now. Well, we know Joe never ran it, but you're not going to be the president next time. That was a palace coup, and then they defrauded 14 million Democratic voters. And no one's talking about that. But you know what the Democrats have stopped talking about? They aren't using the phrase anymore. None of them. Not MSLSD, not the New York Slimes, the Washington Compost. None of them are talking about how Donald Trump is not even the dystopian view. Those lunatics on that program are calling Donald Trump a threat to democracy because they know it goes right back in their face. Threat to democracy. Donald Trump was elected. He won a primary process. Millions of people voted for him. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris. This is a coup. Interesting how that's not the lead story. That should be the lead story every single day on a newspaper, and nobody's running that story.
Yep, absolutely. It was kind of like what Alexander Haig did, right? Whenever he went in to force the vice president out to resign, basically.
I'm in charge here.
Yeah, no, but he forced what was his name? Vice President Spiro Agnew out of office, basically. Kind of went in there and kind of laid it out to him, and he said, "Here's how it's going to go down. Here's what you're going to do."
Oh, you're talking about back when he was at the Joint Chiefs. So it's in the 70s, not during the Reagan administration.
No. This is whenever he came over and became the chief of staff, kind of helping.
Oh, yeah.
Wrap up Watergate and all that. He basically went in and told Spiro, he's like, you got to go. He's like, Nixon's already going to have his problems, and we can't have two people with problems. He's like, you got to go.
Spiro did have to go. I mean,
absolutely.
The guy was convicted of all kinds of corruption charges in Maryland.
But I'm just saying that you can't talk about a palace coup.
Yeah.
He basically went in there and told him, like, you're leaving. You're not going to go speak to the press. You're going to just go issue a statement that you're resigning, and that's it. See you later. And
well, we got a form letter from Joe Biden with a fake signature on a digital signature.
Joe Biden's,
Where the end look like an S.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how. Look, that's the narrative that's gone away. They can't call Donald Trump a threat to democracy anymore because it gets thrown right in their face.
Yeah,
and so they try everything. Do you see the nonsense? They actually, and not just lunatics like that young Turk clown from California who couldn't get through, who got less votes running for office than I do, and he's got millions of followers. That guy who came out and said, well, I mean, we don't know. Was Donald Trump actually hit by a bullet? I mean, was it just so he started that nonsense, and then that percolated. We even heard FBI. the FBI say that they didn't know. Well, the good news is that the deputy director of the FBI in testimony yesterday, when John Kennedy from Louisiana, I love that guy. Oh, he's great. Kennedy's so funny, man. He goes, so deputy director, let me ask you this question. Can you confirm that the former President Trump was struck by a laser beam from space? He goes, I can confirm it wasn't a laser beam. Was he attacked by Sasquatch in Butler, Pennsylvania? No, I can confirm it wasn't Sasquatch.
Yeah, he did.
What was he hit by shrapnel? I can confirm it wasn't shrapnel. Can you, in fact, indeed confirm that President Trump was struck by a bullet fired by the assailant? And he said, I can't unequivocally, without reservation, say that the former president was hit by the bullet fired by the assailant. And that's it. But for 2 weeks now, they're claiming Trump staged the whole thing. He wasn't shot. I mean, these people are insane, absolutely bat crap crazy. I mean, where do we get these idiots from? Did you see in Philadelphia? Like 300 people marching with communist flags, hammer and sickle, marching for communism a few days ago. What's going on? This is insanity.
I know. You never thought, back in the 1980s, you would never have thought this day would come. Ronald Reagan days when, man, we were trying to end the Cold War. Communism was taboo. It was unheard of. You didn't think about being a communist. You wouldn't think about standing up and claiming it. You made fun of communist Russia.
I think the French have been making money exporting Sen poo water that these people have been drinking because they're clearly demented.
Yeah.
Communism? What is wrong with these people? Have you heard of the Khmer Rouge, the Soviet purges? The Cultural Revolution. What a lovely name. The Cultural Revolution. Oh, we're getting new art. No, you're murdering 50 million Chinese. Good God.
Yeah, and if you think about it, what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of conservatives, a lot of Republicans, etc., are going to be afraid to actually go out and vote. I think that's what they're probably trying to do, sow some doubt and scare people maybe away from voting. Maybe that's a part of their little plan here. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't put it past them.
I wouldn't put it past them either. I mean, look, communism and socialism doesn't work. And if you want proof, you look no further than Venezuela. 7 million people have voted with their feet. 7 million Venezuelans have fled Venezuela. 7 million, not 70, not 70,000, not 700,000. 7 million people have fled this country. That's absolutely bat crap crazy. I mean, how just insane. That is so many people have fled that country. It's unbelievable. And that's currently a population of 30 million. So that's like 1 out of 6 people have fled the country. Zimbabwe has 5 million people who fled the country out of what they have 14 million now. Nearly 1/3 of the country or a quarter of the country has fled the country because of the nonsense past 20 years. Those are people voting with their feet who don't believe in socialism, totalitarianism, fascism. Cuba, 1 million people have fled Cuba in the last 2 years. A million. And 700,000 of them come to our shores. Go home. Fix your cigars in Havana. We do not need you in Miami. Miami is full, brother. Go back to Havana.
Yep.
That's going to fly like a lead balloon in Miami.
Yeah, go back to there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're all right. But where are the people going? Are they coming to the United States? Are they going to other surrounding countries and overwhelming them? Where's the demographic makeup of the people coming across the border? How many are from Venezuela? How many from the different countries down in Central South America?
How many Chinese people are coming across?
Right. No, well, I'm just saying.
No, Venezuelans.
I'm just saying how many are coming across our border, or are they going to other countries as well?
Oh, we've had, I don't know the exact figure, but I saw estimates of 700,000, 800,000 Venezuelans at least have come here, if not more. I've seen estimates of 1.2 million. I don't know the true figure. I don't think anybody really knows the true figure because of our borders out of control. There's no actual control. But a lot of Venezuelans have fled to neighboring states, to Suriname, to Colombia, many other places. But 7 million. And Cuba, 1 million people in 2 years have fled Cuba. 1 million. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a lot of rafts. Where they get the material to build these rafts?
That's a major statistic, though, for that island nation, for sure. That's
absolutely. That's a huge number. That's I don't know where they're getting the boats from, John. If I knew, I'd be able to stop.
You got to question that because they're an island, so they got to get the material. I talked to a guy one time in Miami who did that, and he said they built this makeshift raft, and they pushed it off in the middle of the night and climbed on board. And what they were doing is let the current take them up to Florida. And he says, "Man, you know how scary it is sitting out in the middle of the ocean when it's so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face, and water is splashing up on this rickety raft that you built, and you know the water is full of sharks."
Well, that just tells you how strong a vote against communism there is. Okay,
that's exactly what it says.
I've just looked up the figures. The 2022 census for Cuba had a population of 11,089,511. The current estimate of the population is 10,055,000. That's 1,044,000 fewer people in 1 year.
Wow.
1 year. Now, some of that's from natural decline. The rest is from immigration out of the country. Look, these people are fleeing these countries, and they're coming here, which is being turned into a communist paradise. People marching in the streets. I mean, what happened at Union Station, this nonsense when Netanyahu was here? We cannot tolerate this. We're not the UK. We should not tolerate this garbage. This is not Europe. You want to attack our nation? You want to rip down our flag and put up a Palestinian flag? That's an insurrection. You should be in detention right now, undergoing treason charges. And if you're not American, deportation hearings and sent as soon as possible, never to re-enter the land of milk and honey. This is enough.
Yep, I would agree with you. That needs to happen. How many people that were actually arrested that day? Do you know, or were they all kind of ticketed, released, or were anybody actually just maybe momentarily detained?
Authorities tolerated the behavior allow the desecration of our monuments, of the stone statues outside of Union Station, and the burning of our flags, because of course it's a constitutionally protected right. But God forbid you burn a gay pride flag or a Palestinian flag, then you'll find yourself in prison for a hate crime. For a hate crime. But think of burning American flags as a hate crime if you're an American or in America. I don't know the number. It was just a handful of people who were arrested, but not many. It's out of control. I mean, you see what's going on in the UK. I mean, this knife wielding attack killing these kids in a yoga class, and now in the same town you got wackadoodles running around jumping on the back of buses with machetes, and then there was a machete fight, like 6 of these guys, these illegal immigrants attacking each other in the streets with machetes. My God, it's like Peshawar. What is going on here? Oh, speaking of that part of the world, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed has taken a plea bargain after 20 years in prison. He and Walid Mohammed Salih Mubarak bin Atash, now that's a mouthful, and Mustafa Ahmed Adam al-Hawasira have all reached a plea agreement for life in prison for their crimes. It's probably the best outcome because now the government doesn't have to explain how they waterboarded them.
Right, yeah.
And we don't have to go through a trial. I wonder where they'll be detained at, but they now have life in prison for their behavior. So they're probably pretty happy with their 9/11 attacks.
Oh yeah, well, exactly. And of course they can be martyrs and all that. And of course they're probably too old at this point. They've had the cush lifestyle down there. Essentially at Mar-a-Lago, Cuba, basically. A nice resort down there. Of course they have everything at their fingertips: food, water, TV, everything, all the nice amenities. So why would you want to go back over to the Middle East that's moved on from you at this point,
Well, let's run through the list of charges for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind of 9/11. He is charged with first-degree murder in 2,977 counts. Ouch. That's got to be a record. Attacking civilians, attacking civilian objects, intentionally causing serious bodily injury, murder in violation of law of war, destruction of property in violation of law of war, hijacking or hazarding a vessel or aircraft, terrorism, and providing material support for terrorism. Wow. Those were the charges against him. That's pretty amazing. 2,977 accounts of first-degree murder. Wow.
Yeah, man, he'll get to ride out his rest of his life probably, fairly cush one room cell probably, unless somebody can get their hands on him. Then I think he's going to be done for if he goes to say a Supermax here in the U.S.
Well, that's a lot of charges. It sounds like a Biden family associate.
Watch out. The Colonel's down. Colonel's down.
Colonel down. Now we know why he was having so much technical issues.
Right. Yeah. all of a sudden you just see like an explosion and like it goes dark. It's like, oh, okay. Next thing you know, next week it's going to be the Biden show. Hey, everybody, we love Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Right here, WSMN.
Oh, gosh, that's never going to happen. My goodness.
The Kamala too. John Grosvenor and Todd McKinley. Colonel died last week,
Yeah, I'm thinking I would probably just do myself in.
Yeah, I would be. I wouldn't do myself in, but I definitely wouldn't do the show.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do the show. I'd be on the run though, probably.
Well, the guy confessed to 31 different serious crimes. So, look, look again. I've been pretty clear in my position with this. Guantanamo Bay and the conduct of the U.S. government is reprehensible. It's a disgrace to our nation. Holding people in detention for 2 decades without a trial is unacceptable. This is not something we should tolerate as a society. The leftists were opposed to it from the very beginning because they love terrorists. They love anybody that beats down America. I didn't have a problem with the initial detention because these people were unlawful combatants. They committed crimes in violation of the law of land warfare, international agreements, and they're not recognized as prisoners of war because they're unlawful combatants. They're recognized as criminals, and therefore the way they can be handled is very different. They are subject to military tribunal. Why we have not had a military tribunal for these accused in over 20 years is beyond me. It's unacceptable. They should have done it, and they didn't do it. And now here we are 2 decades later, and we finally have resolution in these. I don't know how many more people. I think we're down like 40-some people that were still at the Gucci Guantanamo Bay facilities. But that should never happen. We're not a society. I mean, but now we're seeing it replay again. We're seeing people put in prison for 18 years for not even being present at the January 6th rally.
Yeah.
The guy from the Oath Keepers wasn't even there. And the people being charged with weapons charges for weapons that weren't even present. They didn't even take firearms to the Capitol building, yet they're being convicted of firearms charges because they left their guns where they're allowed to have guns in Northern Virginia, not even in District of Columbia, in another state.
Yeah.
And they're convicted for weapons charges. These people are political prisoners. And this is an issue that Trump better get elected and he better deal with it. I'm
They-
not
they-
saying that everyone deserves to not serve jail time. People who broke into the building and violated the law, those people should be prosecuted. But the vast majority of these people are simply political pawns in a sad game.
The interesting thing is when they were interviewing Christopher Wray during the committee hearing, they were actually addressing this with him. Why is this happening? Why are people falsely being charged? And they were expressing a great deal of distrust for the FBI. They actually just come out and say, we don't trust you. We don't believe that you're doing the right thing.
Well, it's going to get to the point. If you have honest people who are going to get tired of it, FBI shows up at your house. The first instinct's not going to be like, "Oh, why are they here?" It's to just shoot them, lawyer, or shoot them. At this point, you're going to try to kill me or put me in jail for whatever reason. Even especially ones I didn't even do something. People are going to just start shooting these people, and you're putting them in the crosshairs, basically.
Well, I mean, if your first instinct when well, I think you'll know my sentiments when I address them properly by their correct name, the Federal Bureau of Incompetence. I think you know where I stand there. But the first they knock on your door, I mean, it's lawyer, Fifth Amendment,
right?
Lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's we can't trust this organization anymore. We've seen this in their behavior at Mar-a-Lago, vice their behavior in Delaware. We've seen their behavior for the person who actually committed the felony assault on a minor child outside an abortion clinic who was allowed to turn himself in, the leftist, and the raid on the Christian on a Sunday to insult his faith and in front of his dozen children in tears as he's led away in handcuffs. This is not a legitimate organization. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page just got $2 million in settlements. Strzok got $1.2 million. She got $800,000 because the FBI allowed their text message to be revealed. So what? They're criminals. They should have been revealed.
Yep.
And they're getting a settlement. These people who should be in prison for their effort to steal an election, to undermine a presidency. These are crimes. And they walk around just like James Comey, like they're some kind of heroes. For falsely claiming that Trump was colluding with Russia, violating the FISA Act, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, by getting fraudulent warrants to spy on Carter Page, to open the door to go after General Flynn, to go after everyone else. This is insane. These people belong in prison, not getting settlements from the taxpayer.
No, absolutely. And of course, Carter Page and Lisa are Strzok. They're going to go write books. And of course, they're going to go on the speaking circuit and all this, and how horrible it was and how Trump did all these things to them, and they're going to be darlings to the left. You watch, it's going to happen.
Well, this is what his attorney said for Peter Strzok. This outcome is a critical step forward in addressing the government's unfair and highly politicized treatment of Pete. As important as it is for him, it also vindicates the privacy interests of all government employees. We will continue to litigate Pete's constitutional claims to ensure that in the future, public servants are protected from adverse employment actions motivated by partisan politics. Excuse me, you commit a crime and you're entitled to privacy? No. This is turning the legal system on its head. This is what's wrong. I had a conversation with some folks in South Africa a couple of days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And they were asking about the courts. And I said, yeah, the courts in South African America are captured. Now, at times, they make the right decision. But I mean, how does anybody charge Donald Trump with a felony for an expired crime that the state didn't prosecute, the statute of limitations expired, and then they reach up to a federal crime for which they have no jurisdiction over and take a federal election crime, bring it down here, one which Biden's Justice Department wouldn't prosecute because there was nothing to it. They take that and expired, and then they don't introduce the crime until closing arguments. The defendant has no opportunity to defend himself. This goes against every concept in our system of jurisprudence. You are considered innocent until proven guilty. If a government wants to prosecute you, they must present the crime. They must present all the evidence at discovery. The government didn't do that. The Trump trial with the 34 convictions is illegitimate. And how does this even happen in society? And now Lisa Page and Peter Strzok are getting settlements that we're paying for as taxpayers, and they're going to sit high on the hog the rest of their lives when they committed crimes. And their argument is our speech was protected. No, criminal speech is not protected.
No. Exactly. It's just like people think that they can go in their attorney's office and actually, talk about crimes and stuff like that. That's not protected. That's not protected at all.
No. Attorney-client privilege doesn't extend to you telling your client, your attorney, you're going to commit a crime. If you've committed a crime, yes, you're protected. But if you're going to commit a crime, you're talking about committing a crime, they have an obligation to inform law enforcement as an officer of the court.
Yep.
They cannot knowingly let you commit a crime. Right. Now, if you come in and say, look, man, I actually killed her. Well, that's protected. That's attorney-client privilege, and they can't disclose that because you're protected against self-incrimination under our system.
You got that right. Yep, exactly right. So, but people watch these, these movies and stuff, and they think, oh, I can just go to my attorney's office and have these conversations. It's like, no. If you're seeking legal advice, it's one thing, but to go further crime, I'm sorry, your attorney can't be a part of that.
You got to be clever. So listen, Mr. Weinberg, I'm curious. Now I'm sitting here paying you $800 an hour for your advice. Legal advice. I mean, if someone were to hack into the Pentagon's computer and steal classified information, I mean, would that be wrong?
You got to ask that question. Something's wrong.
Yeah. But you should be asking, well, which system are we talking about? Because there's multiple systems at play here that handle classified information. So it's not one thing.
Well.
Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Sorry.
I mean, listen. I mean, look, we could be using pre-crime.
Oh, yeah.
Little balls spin up and they get arrested. I didn't do anything, but you were going to do something. I mean, that's what the Democrats will come up with next. Pre-crime. Yeah, you were going to break the law, so we came and arrested you. But what?
Yeah.
What was that movie? Minority Report?
That's right. Minority Report. That's correct. And the Minority Report disagreed. They buried it. They buried it. The precogs. That's right.
Yeah.
But think about that the whole system relied on a couple people who had some mental thing going on. What happens when they die? The whole system goes away, right? They never addressed that in the movie. It's not like they're going to produce more people with that same mental condition that they can, it's look, it was an interesting movie and it was great to see Tom Cruise around. By the way, I saw the latest Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie. That was awesome, man. It wasn't woke. It was really, really good. And, they always want these over-the-top impossible stunts, but they were all pretty believable. I mean, for movies, it was pretty good.
He does a lot of his stunts for himself, by the way, which is kind of amazing. He's 60-some years old, still looks like he's in great shape. He still looks young, he's on it. I can tell you.
Yeah, it was really good. I was impressed. I also watched those the 2 Extraction movies. I hadn't seen that. I come on Netflix, the outrageous $80,000 a month Netflix subscription. That's what it seems like. It was $5 when I started. Now it's like 23. It's shysters. But no, the Extraction movie, I watched that. That was pretty good. I made a mistake when I watched John Wick. I caught on immediately the first John Wick, doing a body count, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got it wrong. I missed it by 2 when I did the first John Wick movie. But every John Wick movie, that's what people are doing. They're doing body counts. I should have done that in Extraction. I think this dude took out more people in Extraction than John Wick did in his first movie. And the second was pretty good too. Anyway.
Good deal. Extraction movie, huh? Okay. Was that Chris Hemsworth or what was
That's Chris Hemsworth. Exactly right.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Yeah, I may check that out. All right.
I have to make a note. I think I'm missing out on something here.
No, look, I mean, I have to come up with the woke quotient, the WQ, not IQ, but a WQ. So we'll have a scale. If it's a 10, that's really bad. So you're not going to want to watch it because it's woke. If it's a 0, 1, 2, or 3, I'd say that that the Extraction movies on the woke quotient were about a 3, only because they were based. The first one's based in Bangladesh. And it was all people from that part of the world. So not really woke, but, it's a lot of people excluded. But the Mission Impossible, I'd say that's down close to 0 for the woke quotient. Was pretty good. And then the Eddie Murphy movie, Beverly Hills, Axel Foley. That was a pretty good laugh, man. That was good. That was pretty good. No, that was pretty low on the woke quotient too. That was good as well. I mean, I've got a hot streak going here. I'm afraid to watch something else because I watched 5 movies in a row here now that aren't woke. I mean, everything's been woke, and now suddenly I'm finding movies that aren't woke. It's fantastic to see that.
Yeah, and
it's Hollywood's learned their lesson.
Yeah, they haven't learned anything. They're just hunkering.
Nobody
down.
likes to lose money, Chris.
But it was good to see Billy and Taggart back together again.
Oh yeah, that was great.
It was really good. Yeah, Billy and Taggart.
And I like the homage they did to the original chief, who's probably passed. I didn't like the actor, but they had his photograph on the wall in Paul Reiser's office.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
That was cool.
The only thing they didn't have was for Ronnie Cox. There was no tribute to him on that side. I don't know why, but anyway. But it was great. And this, sequels oftentimes lack the essence of the original. They can't live up to it. But this one was could have stood on its own. You didn't need the original Beverly Hills movies.
Right.
You know, this was all by itself. It was fantastic, a really good movie. And The Extraction was the same way. You didn't need the original; it was just as good as the original. So it's nice to see a sequel or a sequel or spinoff that is as good or better than the original. It's always nice to see that. I mean, if you go to Terminator, every Terminator movie is better than the previous one because the first one, you watch that, it was like the cinematography is so poor. Like, we like this in the 80s. This is horrible. Same with RoboCop. The first one's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Very stop.
I can still go back and watch it though. That was such a good story.
Yeah. Well, I can go back and watch Kindergarten Cop. It's not a tumor.
I don't know about that.
Oh, this good that one. Yeah. So we got about 30 seconds, folks. We'll be back next week at 7 o'clock to 9 Eastern, right here on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. Take care. God bless. See you next week.